This is the No Stroke Podcast with your co-hosts David Dansereau and Michael Garrow, helping you to support and thrive in life after stroke. Their podcast is designed for educational and community support purposes only and should not replace medical treatment and guidance of your own health professional team.
Welcome back, everyone, to our season 4, episode 4 of the No Stroke Podcast. My name is Dave Dansereau. I'm here with my co-host Michael Garrow on a Saturday recording. How are you, Mike?
You have me up early on a Saturday, David. But I'm at, the real reason I'm up early on a Saturday is my parents are off on a holiday up to Vermont. And we brought our family dog down to the city for a few days. So he's been, it took some getting acquainted too, for the first couple of days. He's only used to hunting rabbits, and actually a day before the day I picked him up, there was a bear in our backyard that he tried to chase up the road. So
wow,
now it's moved on to rats.
Oh no. And obviously he's getting along with, because you already have a cat. I just saw the cat before we started recording. So
yeah, I wouldn't say it was a great relationship at first. It took some but I think they've gained each other's trust.
Well, you have an interesting weekend ahead of you, and it definitely we'll be upfront, say this episode we don't have a guest coming on, so we don't, it'd be tough to get a guest to come on a Saturday anyway, but we thought it was well worth the time to. We have our momentum going. We had just a quick recap. We had episode 1. We had Jordan Sims-Pierce, Constant Therapy. We had Dan Kendall from Health Unmuted and all the other projects he's doing in the Health Podcast Network, which we're going to focus on this episode. And we just had Henry Hoffman on from Sabo. So we're moving and shaking here in hot July, and I think that would it be okay? We usually do it in the news episode, right, Mike? So before we get to kind of like the discussion around our full onboarding now with the Health Podcast Network and our excitement about that and what's next, I hope it's okay if we just really highlight the one thing that really stuck out for me this week with the heat and everything, was the topic around heat stroke. And in the news this week, I'm sure you got it as well from an alert. Marion Barber was a former Cowboys and Chicago Bears, former NFL running back. Unfortunately, they found him that he had died in his apartment due to heat stroke. And the details were just coming out. I think he actually passed away in June, but he had a little bit different training. He was known over the years to like to train in the heat anyway. And when they found him on a check of his apartment, he had the apartment turned up over 90 degrees. I don't know if you read that as well, but he also had the hot water running to try to simulate like some type
sauna.
Of sauna. Yeah. Right, yeah. So it's very serious. Obviously a tragic loss. But it was interesting too that this week, working with my clients, many of them were commenting how they feel like zapped. They feel, we're both here in New England on the East Coast, and we had a little, not formally a heat wave last week, but we're going to approach one this week where we're supposed to have 3 days over 90, and you're in the city, and I'm sure it feels like 9,500. I don't know what that heat index is in the city, but it's real, so I just thought I'd talk about, respect that, because it can be extremely dangerous. And this is about the same time, it's worth knowing the sign. It's just like knowing the warning signs of stroke, knowing the warning signs of heat stroke. And we'll tag a good link to a couple of resources, like WebMD has a really good article with videos. But I don't know if you're feeling it when you're out and about walking around the city, but it's
yeah,
pretty.
It gets you. Yeah. And I've, in years past, training hard in the summer, and these days that, the heat gets it doesn't even require you to be, out for a run or, really training hard for, for whatever. It could get you just on a walk,
Yeah.
It's scary. So yeah, I think, I'd love to hear, what some of these warning signs are.
Yeah.
And,
I'll just go through them quickly, but usually, they say clinical implications, like if your core temperature goes over 104 degrees, that's you're classified as just having a heat stroke. But you don't need to measure that to know that. Usually signs are dizziness, you might feel nauseous, have a headache, your skin might appear red and hot, but a real indicator is you do stop sweating. And that's a big thing, along with if you're wearing any type of wearable, which we talked about on many episodes, your heart rate usually will be higher than normal. It might be higher the next day as well, if there's a cumulative effect of sort of this exhaustive, just this drain of many hot days after each other. And if you don't have a way to quickly cool or combat that, then it can be a medical emergency. So if you're around that situation with anyone or you experience that yourself, it is a medical emergency. Treat it seriously. The only advice I mentioned regarding my patients is if you're going to continue to exercise and it's outside, tone it down a little bit. Maybe like myself, I'm hooked on my Apple Watch, and I know that I definitely check my I'm laughing because if you're watching this on video, I think was that your dog or your cat?
My cat. Yeah.
Your cat.
Yeah,
he's pretty good at pushing that door open.
Yeah, he's learned. He hasn't quite gotten to the handle yet, but he gives it a good nudge for sure.
So anyway, just to wrap up that thought on heat stroke, just tone your workouts down a little bit, maybe get them in earlier before temps rise or later in the day. Don't be out in the middle of the heat. And if you're younger, you mentioned sport, Mike, this is the time that a lot of times summer conditioning programs start, and it is something to be mindful if you're out on a hot field. And it's just to treat it seriously. That's my final thought there.
Yeah, keep the water on you. And
yeah,
I think what we also, in the city, obviously, the heat does get you. We're not fortunate enough to have central air, but we do have air conditioning. I mean, we keep that thing pumping, all day, but it's tough though, because we got hit with a pretty big electricity bill this past month. So there's a lot of folks out there that might not be able to afford it, but there's opportunities. I know when it gets really hot in the city, shelters open, you could go to a Boys and Girls Club, try to find a place there. But yeah, it's something to really take seriously. So I think it's a great thing to highlight, David. Thank you for that.
Really good points there, Mike. And again, the last point there, a pint is a pound. That's what I push on so if you are looking at weight on the scale, not necessarily a good thing if you've lost a pound after a walk. It's all water weight. You need to replenish that. So I always impart that on my patients, that a pint is a pound. Rehydrate if you are going to continue to exercise, or just monitor that. So let's talk, Mike, about our excitement around the big news that you'll see on our website now. Our final move in onboarding to the Health Podcast Network has happened.
Yeah, super exciting. I don't think for our listeners really too much is going to change. I think for us, it's a real next step, an evolution to kind of solidify us within, a trusted source for healthcare podcasts. And if you go back to the episode with Dan, who founded Mission Based Media and is really trying to drive this healthcare podcast space, he talked around that need for trusted information, because you Google so many things and, you don't know where you end up. Right. So what's great about this is, it kind of puts us in that trusted source, as a network provider. We're the only ones currently focused on stroke within his network at the moment. But I think what's even more exciting is, we're going to continue with what we do here at No Stroke, right? We have some excellent guests coming up. Next week, we're going to be speaking with Heidi, Heidi Shambara. She's from a hospital out here in New York City. And they've designed some really cool AI tools to evaluate the amount of stroke there or intensive rehabilitation stroke patients should be getting in clinic and at home. So we'll continue with great guests coming on like that, and kind of use No Stroke as more of this long form, hour-long episode where we could really dive in depth with our guests. But what we're going to be working on with Dan is a series on his Health Unmuted podcast series. So what this is, it's a shorter form, really being able to, podcast series where they get to the meat within, say, 10 episodes, right? So it doesn't go on where we'll have, hopefully hundreds and hundreds of episodes in No Stroke. What they're trying to do with Health Unmuted, it's more of this short mini series. So think of like a documentary series on Netflix, right? It'll be shorter form. So it's not like an hour long. It'll be more like a 15-minute episode. And we'll be covering stroke and stroke rehab within this format. So we're going to be trying to help curate this mini series and really be able to then drive this. And Dan's goal is to be able to get this into the hands of providers to recommend this to stroke patients when they're leaving the hospital. I think, again, if you go back to the episode, Dan did a great job to kind of show that need from a patient perspective. When his daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, he had so many questions and only so many places to go that he could trust. So we're really excited to be working with him on this one. It's going to be, again, nothing changes with No Stroke. We're going to continue to be doing our thing here, but we're going to be asking our community. So whether you're a stroke survivor, a clinical expert, a caregiver, if you're a stakeholder within, the stroke rehab space, what we're going to be asking from you is to go onto our website, nostroke.org, and we put up a short survey there. Really, first around, if you have any interest to come on and help curate this mini series, right? So if you'd like to be a voice, you'll have the opportunity to connect with David and I. We'll bring you in with Dan and see if it's something that you'd like to help us with. And again, that goes for anyone, if you're a caregiver, survivor, or a clinical expert. And then secondly, what we'd love to hear from our listeners is, what would you want in this mini series, right? So everyone comes out, everyone has their different stories from stroke. But when you think about it, like everyone kind of in that first month, in the first few weeks, like everyone has similar questions, right? It's how, it's why, it's what's next. So what we'd love is, some of your feedback on what that would look like to you. And over the next few months, we'll be curating that feedback and helping design and produce, what's to come with Health Unmuted. So
yeah, well said, Mike. And you brought up some good examples that Dan highlighted. If anyone hasn't gone back and listened to Dan's in episode 2 of this season, the COPD and the Alzheimer's examples are those short form pods that are part of under the Health Unmuted umbrella. And we want our community's input on this, because it's started to map out some of the potential topics, and literally the care pathway is pretty extensive, and the needs are from both the caregiver, the survivor, that lived experience for both. We want to present this in a way that it's meaningful and has the biggest impact. So yeah, so really well said there, Mike. And let's make sure folks, we want to hear your voice. This is a time when really it's time, if you've enjoyed what we're doing, or you're hearing us for the first time, you can be part of this.
Yep. it's something that, is relatively new. There's if you're still trying to kind of get a grasp of, what this might sound like, I really do suggest go over to Health Unmuted. There's series on COPD, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and we're building out that catalog daily. So it's really highly produced. It's not just David and I here, piecemealing this together through Zoom and on a very low production. He's brought in experts in the production space for podcasting. They sound great, they're engaging, and it's something that I think the stroke community deserves, right? And as we grow with this audio form and podcasting evolves, I think it's going to be a tool that hospital systems and clinical providers need to understand, that this is a great, you could be doing your exercise, or we've proven what podcasting could do, right?
Sure.
You're able to multitask, and everybody loves a bit of multitasking in America.
And also,
so
Mike,
nice way to understand.
For sure. And what I learned from Dan too on his episode is that there may be a future TikTok video between you and I promoting this. I mean, he's across the board on all social media. So is that maybe something you're going to think about, on the streets of New York? I'll come join you.
Yeah, we'll need to find a dance. Is it a dance that you do on TikTok? I don't know.
I was leaning on you for this one. So
yeah.
We'll have to, we'll do a little more exploring on that. But, we are excited about, that move to the, to that future project that we're diving into now to get ready for the fall. But I'll just add on the Health Podcast Network, now that all our links are being redirected, and we had a good run. We were hosting with Buzzsprout previously, so you see slight changes in the feeds. You won't see on your player per se, because on the back end, our feed and our hosting has moved over to Megaphone as part of this. So there'll be slight changes in the look of the players. But the reason I bring that up is because we're going to make our landing page for the podcast go over to the Health Podcast Network. And I like that mainly because you can also, of course, we want you to listen to our podcasts and learn about stroke and all the great guests we bring on. But there's like you mentioned at the beginning, legitimizing, this sort of evidence-based or bringing on guests that are experts in their space. There's a lot of great other podcasts in there. And if you go to our link at the top, you'll see that we're listed under one of the newest shows. But scroll through or search topics that you might be interested in, because there are really some great experts on that network. And that's, partly why I'm very excited for both of us to be able to take that next step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cool thing that he's putting together. You see this happening in other industries. Sports podcasts have their networks, and you think healthcare. I mean, that's a wonder. You really need a place that you trust. So again, we're excited to be a part of it. Excited to see what's next, and excited for a couple more guests here on No Stroke coming up. Do you want to give a quick shout out to the episodes that you're going to be on? Coming
thanks.
up?
Yeah. So we so end of this month, July 26th, and I'm going to be on a live Zoom event with Ralph Preston from Stroke Buddies. He's doing great work in advocacy and building his community. We're also going to try to get Ralph. We're finalizing his date, where we're going to have a sort of a cross promo where he's going to come on maybe in time to close out our fourth season here. But we're also going also going to be a guest on Brains with Brian from Med Rhythms on July 29th. So I'll put those dates and times. I think that's going to be a live stream, and they'll both be recorded too. So and Mike, to put you on the spot, we're going to be a guest on. We had Henry Hoffman from Sabo. If you have your calendar up front, if not, we'll put it. His new podcast with his group and at Sabo is called the No Plateau Podcast, and we're going to be kind of doing another crossover event where we're going to both be guests there. So
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. It's going to be interesting because it's Henry, excuse me, it's Henry and his co-founder as well. So I'd love to kind of understand their dynamic and what they've built. And hopefully, what we'd love is, we're talking around, being able to find, some opportunities for our listeners to be able to go into Sabo and hopefully get some discounts on some of their products as well. So, if you are interested in Sabo products, please do reach out to us. We have a great relationship with Henry and we'll be able to put you in contact. If there's anything specific that you'd like to learn more about around the product line, or just have a general chat with one of their clinical folks as well. So, yeah, I think that about wraps us up here. I know it's a Saturday morning. You have a lot of yard work to do.
A lot of weeds.
I have a dog that probably needs to go run around the neighborhood.
Get him out.
Yeah.
Get him out. Let him explore. Don't send him down any alleys after. There's different critters in the city that, you're used to, maybe rabbit in the country where he's coming from, but there's different other, alley critters that maybe you don't want to bring him back into your place. So
probably not. No, we'll keep him away from that.
Well, everyone, listen, stay cool. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Mike, thanks for your time here on a Saturday morning. Pretty early, right? Pretty early for you?
For my girlfriend who's still in bed, yeah.
Okay.
Megan, yeah. It's certainly early for her, but not too bad for me. But yeah, it's been a good one here, David.
Yeah,
I think we'll be back at next week. We'll have the recording with Heidi, so looking forward to that one. And we'll be back soon.
Thanks for listening, everyone.